Good evening, my dear friends, and welcome. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that's been bubbling beneath the surface of our national conversation, something that recently exploded into a torrent of frustration, even fury, right there on our television screens. I'm talking, of course, about the recent segment on Good Morning Britain, featuring the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Now, utterly clueless, sparks fury, same complaint. The internet, as it often does, lit up like a Christmas tree with a very clear message of discontent. But here's the thing. When the dust settles on these digital storms, when the hashtags fade and the outrage moves on to the next topic, what are we left with? Are we just left with the echo of frustration? Or is there something deeper, something far more profound hiding within these moments of collective exasperation? Because what if, just what if, the very things that make us sigh in exasperation, the very comments that spark that immediate visceral reaction, what if they hold the key to an entirely different understanding? What if they are, in fact, not just a reflection of what is, but a profound signpost to what could be? We're going to delve into that tonight, and I promise you, by the end of our time together, you might just see the world, and indeed our politics, through a completely new lens. Let's cast our minds back to that specific GMB moment. Rachel Reeves, a figure of considerable importance in our political landscape, was speaking about the economy, about the challenges we all face, the rising cost of living, the squeeze on our pensions, the uncertain future for our grandchildren. And then came the complaint. The overwhelming sentiment from the audience, echoing across social media, was that her answers felt, well, disconnected, that they didn't quite grasp the lived reality of everyday Britons. It was as if she was speaking a different language, a language of economic models and statistical projections, while the nation was grappling with the very real, very immediate pain of a supermarket bill that just wouldn't shrink. Now, it's easy to dismiss this as just another political misstep, another politician out of touch. We've seen it 1,000 times, haven't we? But let's pause for a moment. What if that feeling of utterly cluelessness wasn't just about her? What if it was a symptom of something much larger, something woven into the very fabric of how we communicate about our shared future? Because in that moment, a massive chasm was revealed, a chasm between the language of power and the language of people. And that, my friends, is where our journey truly begins. This wasn't just a report, it was a revelation. And the surprising truth is, this revelation isn't just a problem, it's an incredible opportunity. For many of you watching, our wonderful audience aged 60 to 65, this feeling of being unheard, of politicians speaking at you rather than to you, is not a new sensation, is it? You've witnessed decades of political discourse. You've seen economic booms and busts. You've lived through profound social changes. You've worked, you've raised families, you've contributed immensely to this country. And through it all, you've gathered an invaluable wealth of experience, a reservoir of wisdom that simply cannot be learned from a textbook or a spreadsheet. When someone in a position of power seems to miss the mark, seems to articulate solutions that don't quite resonate with your lived experience, it's not just a casual observation. It's a deep, almost instinctual reaction rooted in a lifetime of navigating the very complexities they are discussing. Your complaint, that feeling of utterly cluelessness, isn't born of malice. It's born of a profound, lived understanding of how things actually work on the ground. It's the voice of a generation saying, "We see something you're not seeing." And here's the unexpected twist. That voice, your voice, holds an incredible, untapped power. A power that could reshape our future in ways we haven't even begun to imagine. Think about it. When a politician talks about economic growth, what do you see? Do you see abstract graphs and percentage points? Or do you see the local high street struggling to keep its doors open? Do you see the families in your community making impossible choices between heating and eating? When they talk about inflation, do you just hear a number? Or do you feel the pinch in your own wallet, the rising cost of your weekly shop, the anxiety about your fixed income? This is the unseen tapestry, my friends. It's the intricate, vibrant, and often painful reality woven by millions of individual lives. It's the stories behind the statistics, the human heartbeats behind the economic indicators. The cluelessness many felt from the GMB report wasn't just about a lack of facts. It was about a perceived lack of connection to this tapestry. It was about the absence of empathy for the lived experience. But here's the surprising part. This perceived disconnect isn't necessarily a deliberate act of ignorance. It's often a consequence of a system that prioritizes numbers over narratives, models over lived realities. And this realization, this understanding, is the first step towards bridging that chasm. Because if we understand why the disconnect exists, we can then begin to weave a new, more inclusive tapestry. You, our audience, have a unique perspective born of navigating decades of change. You've seen how policies, good and bad, ripple through society. You've adapted, innovated, and persevered. You've carried the weight of responsibility, raised families, built careers, and contributed to communities. Your complaint about Rachel Reeves wasn't just a criticism, it was an articulation of a profound understanding. It was the collective wisdom of experience crying out for recognition. And here's where it gets truly inspirational. This wisdom, often unspoken, often undervalued, is precisely what our society desperately needs right now. We are at a crossroads, facing challenges that require not just clever policies, but deep human understanding. And who better to provide that understanding than those who have lived through the cycles of change, who have seen what truly works and what doesn't, not in theory, but in practice. The surprising revelation is that the very act of expressing your frustration, that shared moment of utterly clueless on GMB, was a powerful, albeit perhaps unintentional, collective declaration of your readiness to contribute this invaluable wisdom. You are not just observers, you are essential architects of the future. So how do we bridge this chasm? How do we ensure that the silent wisdom of experience is heard and integrated? The answer, I believe, lies in the power of narrative. It's about translating those dry statistics into compelling human stories. It's about making the abstract tangible. And it's something we, as individuals, can champion. Imagine if instead of just expressing frustration, we started sharing our stories in ways that politicians simply couldn't ignore. What if we started painting vivid pictures of how a particular policy impacts our lives, our families, our communities? Not with anger, but with clarity and conviction. Because a single powerful story can often cut through more noise than 1,000 statistics. The surprise here is that the solution isn't about waiting for them to change. It's about us empowering ourselves to tell our truths in a way that creates an undeniable shift in perception. This isn't about blaming, it's about building bridges, one story at a time, and each one of us holds a piece of that bridge. And here's the truly inspiring vision. What if moments like the GMB report aren't just moments of conflict, but potential sparks for collaboration? What if the fury wasn't just a sign of anger, but a deep longing for connection, a yearning for policies that genuinely reflect the lived realities of our nation? Imagine the world where policymakers actively seek out not just focus groups, but genuine, in-depth conversations with people like you, where your experiences aren't just anecdotal, but foundational to the very policies being shaped. And the surprising truth is that this kind of collaboration isn't a pipe dream, it's a necessity. The challenges we face, from climate change to healthcare, are so complex that they demand a synthesis of academic knowledge, political foresight, and the profound wisdom of lived experience. And the very complaint on GMB could be the catalyst for this new approach. It's a wake-up call, not just for politicians, but for all of us, to demand a deeper, more empathetic engagement. Because when wisdom meets policy, something truly transformative happens. It's an alchemy that creates stronger, more resilient societies. So, what does this mean for us, right here, right now? It means recognizing the immense power you hold. Your frustration, that feeling of utterly cluelessness, is not a sign of weakness. It's a powerful indicator of unmet needs, of a yearning for something better, something more connected. And it's a profound opportunity for you to step forward, to share your stories, to lend your wisdom. Perhaps it's through engaging with your local representatives, writing letters, participating in community forums, or even just sharing your insights with your friends and family, sparking those crucial conversations. Every single voice adds to the chorus. Every shared experience helps to illuminate the unseen tapestry. The surprising thing is how little it takes to start a ripple. One conversation, one shared story can begin to shift perceptions. And that shift, multiplied across our nation, can become an unstoppable wave of positive change. This isn't just about politics, it's about the very soul of our society, about ensuring that every voice, especially the wise, experienced voices of our older generation, is not just heard, but deeply understood and valued. You see, my friends, what appeared on the surface to be a mere moment of political frustration, a flash in the pan of online outrage, was in fact something far grander. It was the collective subconscious of a nation, perhaps for the first time in a long time, articulating a deep, resonant truth that our leaders must not only be intelligent, but also deeply empathetic. Not just statistically astute, but profoundly human-centered. The fury wasn't destructive, it was, in a strange and beautiful way, constructive. It was the phoenix of hope rising from the ashes of discontent. The surprise, the true inspiration, is that the very moments that seem most disheartening, most frustrating, are often the ones pregnant with the most profound possibilities for change. They are the moments when we, as a society, are given an undeniable glimpse into what needs to be healed, what needs to be understood, and what needs to be transformed. And for our generation, your generation, it's a powerful invitation to lead that transformation.